good evening, good morning, good afternoon, depending upon when you're watching this. It's good for you to see me because I really can't see you because it isn't being aired live. But I'm happy to know you're watching this. And as I always start with, to my guys, gals, non binary pals, if you're going through something in life, and you feel that a permanent solution might be the only option to a temporary problem, it's not. Turn this off and dial the National Suicide Hotline, which is 988. You are important. People love you. And the world would be a much not good place without you. I couldn't come up with the right word, but if you're going through anything, you don't have to struggle alone. I am not a professional in the mental health field, but if you dial 988, you will get a professional in the mental health field who can help you. Moving on. We got some birthdays this month. First, it is going to be my firstborn nephew Cole's birthday. He's turning 13 this year. And by this year, I mean in 6 days. Or by the time I finish this video, it's going to be 5 days. Wow. Wow, time just flies. But I'm here to talk about another birthday, which I'll tell you what it is, but I want to talk about movies. I like movies. I was raised by a dad who just showed me movies. And, some of them were a little risque at times. So I just want to describe a few movies and just certain risque parts of them. And they all have something in common. Let's see if we can figure out what it is. I know what it is. I came up with the topic. Okay, first, spoiler warning. I'm going to be spoiling aspects of these movies. But they're all kind of old, so you should know this stuff. First is Jaws, where in the last scene, one of the main characters gets eaten, and you see everything, by Jaws. It's pretty graphic. Also a great movie, The Graduate. But that deals with some pretty adult issues of statutory you-know-what. And, relations between inappropriate partners due to age and power. There was Beetlejuice. And then this is the pre-Lauren Boebert era, where, there's a lot of cursing, and it has to do with the afterlife. A little scary. There was Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which there was relations between a cartoon and a human. So, I don't know if that's necessarily that appropriate for children, but okay. Poltergeist, which still scares me, where a bunch of people die and get eaten by a house. Enough said. 16 Candles, which has full frontal female top nudity and has a lot of negative ethnic comments about the Asian community. It was a movie, but it had definitely some adult themes. Return to Oz. That movie still scares me, where the Wicked Witch could actually remove her head and put on another head. And they locked Dorothy Gale, who, fun fact, the actress, whose name I don't have on top of my head right now, maybe I should replace it with a different one, would go on to play the love interest in The Waterboy, the Adam Sandler Oscar award-winning picture. But That movie actually still gives me the creeps, and I refuse to watch it. And then there was Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, where somebody's face literally melts and he dies. Now, granted, it was a Nazi character, but if you're a kid, you don't really put that together, and it scared me a little bit. It scared me a lot. I was a wimp. And then there was Gremlins, where, you have these cute little creatures, but then they turn into these monsters and savagely kill people. Now, obviously I chose all these specific movies for a reason and gave a little description about them. What do they all have in common? Any guesses? Being this isn't live, I'd be very surprised if there were. They're all PG. Wait, did he just say PG? He must have meant PG-13. No. PG. Because there was no PG-13. Because this year is going to be the 40th birthday of the PG-13 rating. And that's what we're going to talk about. Because it just seems like an interesting topic. At least for me and any movie people. So, what brought about the PG-13 rating? Well, it's because of two movies, both of which I have already described. It would be Gremlins and Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. When both of these movies were made and then submitted to the Motion Picture Association, they were given R ratings. Now, Spielberg directed Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, or he was like executive producer. He was heavily involved in the movie. He directed Jaws, I know that. I'm just going off what I know here. I don't have like a note set. But he knew that his pocket would be really hurt if the movie kept its R rating. Because what's R? Restricted. You can't go see it if you're 17 or 18 or willing to lie. Don't do that though. So, Gremlins just sort of came along for the ride with Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, to the point that Spielberg actually said, it's not called Indiana Jones and the Temple of Roses. Actual quote. So you had Spielberg and you had the Motion Picture Association of America going back and forth, cut this, take this, remove this, and finally, they both threw their hands in the air and said, we're going to create something new. And on July 1st, 1984, the PG-13 rating was born. So it's not its birthday yet, but July 1st, make sure you put it down and have cards ready. PG-13 is having a 40th birthday. Kind of a big deal here. But somehow Spielberg still got that movie and Gremlins to get a PG rating. They were like grandfathered in. I don't know what maneuvering he did, but I really wish I did so I could use it in my profession, because bravo, genius. Came up with this compromise, but it didn't apply to him. So, what was the first PG-13 movie? Anyone know? Well, why am I asking? This isn't live. Red Dawn. You know how many times I've seen Red Dawn? 0. I did a little research on it, and it's one of those Cold War turns into World War III movies, between the Soviet Union and the United States. It was remade in 2002, I think, or 2012, but the 1984 version of Red Dawn, which I'm going to have to watch now, was the first PG-13 movie. Now, what rules did they make? What makes something PG-13? Now, does that mean nobody under the age of 13 is allowed in? Do they need a parent with them? Well, that's sort of the direction they went. When I was younger, well, confession, I would always actually buy senior citizens tickets and never got caught. I don't do that anymore, though. Don't do that. It's a bad thing. It was wrong. I was lying, and I needed to make amends for it. But so if you're under 13 or under, you should have a parent when you go see a PG-13 movie. But they needed rules. You know, it just couldn't be a title. There had to be specific things within the movie that would make it so it shouldn't be PG, but doesn't reach the level of R. What are they? Happy you asked. First is, there can be violence, but it has to be non-believable violence. What's non-believable violence? I don't know. The example I got was like Transformers. A lot of violence in Transformers, but no one actually thinks that's gonna happen because Transformers aren't real. What about nudity? There can be nudity, but it can't be intimately related nudity. Example, Titanic. When Jack was drawing the worst villain of any movie ever, Rose, and she was not wearing a top, that was nudity. That was why it was able to be PG-13. What about language? Well, the only word they actually made a steadfast rule was the F word. You know which one I'm talking about. You get one F word for the movie. That's it. Use it wisely. But it doesn't end there. It can't be said in a sexual context. Then it would bump the movie up to R. So you get your F word, but it can't be describing an act. Example, if someone were to, let's see me with this shaving bruise and be like, that's one good-looking effing guy. Cool. You got your F word in, and it wasn't in a sexual context. But if let's say you see two people and you're like, they're about to go F. Nope. To the R rating you must go. Yeah, these rules sound really dumb, don't they? It's because they are. Now, PG-13, when it came out, obviously it was taken very seriously at first, like most things, and then no one really cared. It wasn't really enforced. It wasn't really taken very seriously. You know, there was just more important things going on in the world, like, I don't know, anything else, until the world changed. I remember it like it was yesterday. I'm scarred. To this day. On February 1st, 2004, myself and 112 million people had their lives changed forever by seeing Janet Jackson's nipple on the Super Bowl halftime show. I'm sorry, I get emotional just thinking about it. And by the way, it wasn't even really like her full nipple. It was like a nipple in jail, if you think about it, because I might have rewatched it a few hundred times. There was like a gauge over it. So, okay. But that gave the FCC their in to be like, we must enforce decency, because, a caged nipple is not decent at all. And I got these statistics. These are real. Let's look at the amount of FCC complaints over the course of 4 years. In 2001, there were 100,000, roughly, FCC complaints. In 2002, there were roughly 100,000 FCC complaints. In 2003, it went up a little. I guess the world was getting a little riskier. Went up to 300,000 FCC complaints. But then after the world changed in 2004, because the Patriots beat the Panthers, because we were exposed to the caged nipple, there were, I kid you not, roughly 8 million FCC complaints. So the FCC, which at that point was run by a man named Brent Bozell II, not the guy who had a problem with Married with Children back in the 80s, I believe it was his son, it gave them what they needed to enforce. And to this day, the PG-13 rules are stringently adhered to. The 3 rules I said. You can have violence, but it can't be believable violence. You can have nudity, but it can't be in a sexual context. And you get 1 F word, but it can't be in a sexual context. These rules are so stupid. So I have an idea. How about parents and guardians watch the movie, whatever movie, and then determine if their child should see it? Then we won't have to look silly with rules like these. However, I don't want to take away from the awesome birthday we're celebrating this year, that on July 1st of this year, PG-13 turns 40. It's not going to be PG-40, but PG-13 turns 40. And we can thank Spielberg and the Melting Vase and Gremlins and Janet Jackson and Justin Timberlake. I didn't forget about you, Justin. I know what you... I knew what you did that on purpose. That night, I was just so aghast. Actually, I think I was trying to hide drugs from a girl, but that's a story for another time. But, so, now you know the story of the PG-13 rating. And you must feel so enriched with this knowledge. On that note, have a wonderful evening, and in 5 days, it will be my nephew's 13th birthday, which means he'll be able to see PG-13 movies, as long as his parents say it's okay if he's watching. Good night, everyone. I love you.